Hi, this is Jackie. This is my presentation on studies in leadership. A successful leader has to be able to make the right decision. Benefits not only the corporation, but also the society where we live in. Indra and Nooyi foresee the future of the healthy food market. For example, Cracker Oats, Tropicana, and Gatorade. Those three are the main healthy brands under PepsiCo. When people think of PepsiCo, they traditionally think of carbonated soft drinks. Have you heard of these brands? All these brands are under PepsiCo. This is to prove how Indra and Nooyi focus on healthy food alternatives than junk food.
Chances are there's a PepsiCo product in your home right now, and Indra Nooyi wants to keep it that way.
Indra Nooyi, PepsiCo CEO, talks straight, has a sharp sense of humor, and sings in the hallways whenever she is. She's commonly described as a force. Traits that make her a successful leader.
Great question. I've always talked about my 5 C's model, and let me talk about them again. The first is competency. I think anybody who wants to be a future leader should have a hip pocket skill that everybody looks at and says, XYZ is the go-to person for that skill. Because unless you're really known for something, and not just as a generalist, you don't stand out from the pack. But in order to be competent at something, you've got to be a lifelong student, because you've got to constantly refine your knowledge of that subject so that you remain ahead and abreast of everything that goes on in that field first. The second I'd say is courage and confidence. It's a pair. You can be very, very competent, but if you're not willing to speak out, if you're not willing to have the confidence based on your knowledge, what's the point, right? You just roll over. So courage and confidence are very important. The third is communication skills. You cannot overinvest in communication skills, written and oral communications, because as a leader, you constantly have to mobilize the troops. The fourth skill I'd say is consistency. It's important that leaders are consistent. You can change your mind, but change your mind against a consistent framework, because if you're not consistent, people are always second guessing what you're doing. So be consistent. And the last skill is your compass. Integrity is critical in this job. You can be competent, you can be courageous, have confidence, be a great communicator, be consistent. But if you don't have integrity, if that compass doesn't point true north, everything comes crashing down, as we've seen in recent times. So again, it's the 5C model, and that's what I've operated against for all my life.
She's a successful leader who is visionary, charismatic, and ethical forward-looking.
I've been thinking about this for a while, not the CEO job, but just thinking about PepsiCo for a while. It occurred to me that large companies are like little countries. In fact, PepsiCo is bigger than many countries in the world. Yeah, it's a country on itself. And when you have such huge influence and such huge scale, you have to make sure that you do the right thing, not just commercially, but also ethically. And so it occurred to me when I became CEO that focusing PepsiCo around being the good company, where we can, as a company, do better by doing better for society, might be the way to galvanize PepsiCo and give everybody the license to do what they've always been doing, but do it even more now. And so Performance with Purpose was born.
Habit 1. Be proactive.
What I was doing, because at the end of the day, I chose to go to the United States. I chose to make a career in the United States. I chose to leave a country where everybody looked like me. And if somebody is uncomfortable dealing with me initially, I have to live with it. And over time, if people get more comfortable, that's great. I have to help them get comfortable. You know, stress is a state of mind. And in the most stressful situation, I just tell myself, what's stress? There is no stress. You just got to get it done. So what's the stress?
I see.
And so very, very infrequently would you hear me say, I'm under stress. Rest of the time, I just say,
That's a state of mind.
It's a state of mind.
Habit 2. Begin with the end in mind.
Whatever you do, throw yourself into it. Throw your head, heart, and hands into it. I look at my job not as a job. I look at it as a calling, as a passion. And I don't care about the hours. I don't care about the hardship, because to me, everything is a joy. So whatever you do, please look upon it as a calling and a passion, not as a job, not as something temporary.
I mean, I had a family, I had kids, I was working hard, and...
But networking is so important in the executives world. When you have to skip a dinner and go back to your kids, did you have to struggle a little bit?
I didn't. Believe me, I missed most dinners. Most networking dinners, I was a no-show because I needed to go back to my kids and I wanted to be with my family and I didn't want to be in some dinner after being at work the whole day. Now, did that disadvantage me? I don't think so, because here again, if your work product is so good, you don't need the networking, because people look at you and say, she is so good at what she does. Let us seek her out, as opposed to me having to seek them out. So I didn't care whether I networked or not. Every time I got invited to a dinner, I said, sorry, can't come, gotta go home.
Habit 3. Put first thing first.
We were in the middle of the restaurant spin-off. I had 2 young kids at home. My best friend died. And her funeral was on Sunday. Monday morning, we were going to announce the spin-off of restaurants. There was a lot of work to do. And one of my kids was sick at that time. My husband was traveling, and I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to get all this done? Just take a deep breath, and you say, stressing out takes up more time. So put that aside, and just say, okay, how are you going to manage all of these? How are you going to go to the funeral? How are you going to get the work done? How are you going to make sure your kids are okay?
Just work it out.
Just work it out. Make a few phone calls. Call on some friends to help you out. You just do it.
Habit 4. Think wing-wing.
So when you have a lifestyle that's fundamentally changed, as people who produce the foods and beverages that people put into their body, we have to change for this lifestyle that's become less active. So we realized that as a responsible food and beverage company, we had to change our portfolio to offer many more low-calorie options. Now, I can't tell you what to eat, because no consumer likes to be told what to eat.
It's a personal choice.
It's a personal choice. And moderation in everything is good. But what we can do is provide great tasting, low-calorie products. That way people can choose.
Habit 5. Seek first to understand, then be understood. Indra's tip to corporations was to be super visible. We need to communicate all the time. Habit 6. Synergize. Performance with purpose. It has become engraved in the hearts and minds of PepsiCo's employees.
Please help others rise. Greatness comes not from a position, but from helping build the future. All of us in positions of power have an obligation to pull others up. You know, as I stand here today, I look at my responsibility not as accepting an honor. I look upon it as accepting a challenge and a responsibility, an obligation to actually make it possible for the people who are younger to come up and achieve levels of greatness so they too can be on the stage sometime in the future.
Habit 7. Sharpen the saw.
You know, you can't pretend to understand China sitting in New York. So I decided to start becoming a student of China.
Having learned some Chinese.
A few words. Such as Hung Hao. Very good. You know, the usual greeting and the thank you. And of course, the names of our products, Jiao Bin Le and Guo Bin Fen. I like to say all those words. Sound very
Pretty good pronunciation.
Oh, thank you. First, please be a lifelong student. You know, when we are kids, we ask questions like, why is the sky blue? Why is the bird flying so high? But for some reason, as we get older, that curiosity goes away. And if we are happy with the knowledge we have, then we are actually going to atrophy. So please remain a lifelong student. Don't lose that curiosity.
Want to be a great leader just like Indra Nooyi? You don't just born to be a great leader. You have to be a lifelong student. So, let's practice the 7 habits and make them become part of our lives.
At the end of 2020, if people look back to the first 2 decades of the 21st century, and if somebody asked them, what were the great companies of the first 2 decades of the 21st century?
I want people to have PepsiCo as one of the great companies, as one of the defining corporations of the first part of the 21st century. And a defining corporation not because we generated great financial performance, a defining corporation because we were the good company, good commercially but good ethically, because we really defined what performance with purpose was all about and set the standard for great corporate behavior. If we can accomplish that, I'd say I left behind a great legacy.
Thank you for listening. I hope you all enjoy my presentation on my leader, Indra Nooyi. Have a wonderful break and enjoy all the